Welcome to Ignite Intimacy, a podcast exploring intimacy, romantic relationships, sexuality, and everything that relates to these hot topics. We're going in. Are you ready? This is your host, Laura Aisha. Let's do this. What up, Ignite Intimacy community? This is your host, Miss Laura Aisha, and I am, super excited. That's pretty much a study for me. As you know, just really, really grateful and honored to be doing this work in the world, coming off of South by Southwest, which was such a dynamic and exciting experience. You heard from Lauren Weiniger last week from the Safe app. And now to wrap up our March month of sexual wellness, health, women's health, we have Estrella Jaramillo on the line with us today. And we are going to be diving into pelvic floor health, how to deal with anxiety, whether it's around your physical health, your sexual health, how to create healthy, wealthy souls and spirits, relationship dynamics and communication. So this is a powerful conversation. We've got some great resources that we're including in the show notes, so make sure you check those out. And again, we will have another erotic poem from Noelle at the end of this episode. So tune in, enjoy, and we love you so much. All right. Ciao for now.
Looking into each other face to face, it's easier to get pulled back thoughts that you had before the call or the previous call or something.
Yes.
Very good idea. I love it.
Awesome. Well, we are recording, and this is Miss Laura Aisha, and I am so excited to have Estrella Jaramillo on the line with us today. Sane, currently living in New York. We met at the HIMSS conference recently, and we were just chatting about the meditation that I do with my guests prior to pressing record. So I'm glad that was impactful for you.
I loved it. I think everyone should do this. It was amazing. I'm so relaxed.
Yes. Well, that's the point, right? And I also find that it aligns our energy because you're over there. So I'm currently in San Francisco recording this. Estrella is in New York. And so we're not, sitting face to face, and it definitely helps us just kind of like align, drop in, let go of anything that was in our space prior to this recording. And so, thank you for playing with me. It's
of course.
So Estrella and I met at the HIMSS conference, and that's the Health Information Management. Is that
IT systems?
So it's like health information management systems, a lot of telehealth, health tech companies and hospital systems, really interesting companies doing powerful things in the world. So we met. I had this synchronistic meeting with this man, this doctor and consultant, Muhammad Ali, and Muhammad introduced me to Estrella. And then I was like, okay, this is my sister. I was like,
we found each other in a conference that it's very tech heavy and very heavy industry, kind of like biotech and everything. And you and I just met. We were meant to meet because we were one of the very few people that were really into sexual health and connecting with your emotions. So very, very grateful for that.
So Estrella and I are going to dive into some juicy topics today. As you know, in March, we're focusing on sexual health and really like whole aspect of your health around sex and sexuality and intimacy and relationships. So we'll be talking a bit about pelvic floor health, anxiety, why women have a lot of anxiety, especially around sex and intimacy in our bodies, and then what we can actually do to move that energy in a more productive way or more productive ways. And then also we may dive into the topic of relationship dynamics as well. But first, I want you all to get to know a little bit about Estrella and who she is. So Estrella is a women's health advocate, and I'd love for you to tell our community a little bit about who you are in this journey, this dynamic journey that you've been on around, health advocacy and, building tech companies. And so give us the goods.
Yeah, for sure. So yes, as you were very rightly saying, I am a women's health advocate and entrepreneur. My most recent big project has been B-wom, which is a digital health solution for women. We, through our app, we provide women with personalized care programs for their intimate health symptoms, including anything ranging from incontinence to postpartum recovery to sexual dysfunction. These are issues that most people think are very isolated or things that are not that common, but the reality is that over 70% of women experience different intimate health issues like the ones that I just mentioned at different points of their lives, and they have a very strong impact on their overall well-being. So, me and my team are really passionate about untapping things that have been neglected by society or considered a taboo. And that's basically the core of my journey. It's just discussing issues that are health related and that are being neglected and categorized as a taboo that people cannot talk about, and that are leading to bigger health problems or bigger emotional health problems or relationship problems just because they're being pushed down. Yes. So I've been in the women's health field for 7 years, and through my work with the previous company and through my work co-founding and leading B-wom here in the United States, I've had the opportunity to also go and do a lot of awareness sessions at different organizations like the World Bank. I've done corporate workshops here in different companies in New York City and in San Francisco.
That's amazing.
Yeah, just basically like
what is that like?
Right? It's like me pushing a lot an HR officer to offer a better women's health oriented benefits to their female employees and saying, I'm going to come in and do a workshop. And then I basically they send me their female employees and we all gather and we have a conversation about, hey, the core years of your careers are also the years where you're going to experience the most physical changes in terms of that you're going to be having maybe some fertility concerns. You might figure out whether you want to get pregnant or not. And then if you do, you're going to go through postpartum and you're going to have to go back to work with a baby on your arm. And there's going to be all these symptoms that happen and the world will not tell you what to do with them. But there are solutions. You need to continue being happy with your body, sexually active if you wish to, and definitely healthy all the way through to menopause, right? So all these issues that happen between early 20s to after 50s, those issues happen during the core years of our careers, and yet we don't have corporations really support our health journeys. So that's what that looks like. It's a lot of
well, and I think about the times that I've gone into the workplace when I've had a concern about specifically my sexual health, right? Like there's something going on, I'm not sure what, and how distracting that can be, and how shut down and closed off I've felt around even sharing it with anyone. So it's like there's not even, in my experience, and granted, I worked from home for the last, 14 years, but I, when I have had jobs, it's like, where is that safe space where you can say look, I have this health concern. I don't really know what's going on. I'm completely distracted from doing my work today. And I just even just to get it off your chest, or have someone give you suggestions about okay, this could be a next step for you. You could call this type of practitioner, or, whatever the case may be.
Yeah. Well, so in our case, we mostly help with specific contents and habits and things that you can do right now to improve those symptoms. In the sexual health space, we also have a lot of contents. And as you were very rightly saying, it's the whole taboo of during your 20s and 30s, you also have a lot of sexual health concerns. And those are very distracting and they are taxing, and you're going into the workplace and you can't discuss them with anyone. And that should be that way. You should not have to discuss them with them, but how do we create a platform that protects the employee when they have a problem? I've seen numerous cases of early cancer cells because of HPV infection, people that needed to take a couple of days of work and that they were having a lot of anxiety because of this and they didn't feel comfortable telling their employer. But we need to create the space for these people to focus on healing their bodies, right? And taking the
Absolutely.
time they need. So how do we provide a buffer there, right? Like a system in which these people can go tend to their bodies and their health and their needs without having to either have the very uncomfortable conversation that they shouldn't need to have, which is the same that happens with mental health issues, which sometimes they're like, they go hand in hand, right? When intimate health issues or sexual health issues persist, there's usually a very emotional distress situation or mental health situation that could happen with it or related to it. And you don't want to be talking that with necessarily, right? Even though I'm not very pro let's lift the taboo, at the same time I think that you should be able to set your boundaries and not have to give explanations where you don't want to.
Absolutely.
So how do
Absolutely.
we create a system in which people don't have to pretend like they're superman and superwoman in order to get a job or in order to be respected in society or in order to have relationships with others, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and to also not have to hide and feel completely isolated or alone.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. So it's like the equivalent of, I mean, I think of how much I've used Planned Parenthood, and how just picking up the phone and calling to speak to a nurse can alleviate a lot of that anxiety.
Yes, yes. All these issues bring so much anxiety that we're suffering in silence. And oftentimes we don't even talk to our best friends about whatever's concerning us. And that's why I was saying about the emotional health issues that come with them. Yeah, right now with new technologies, as we were seeing also at HIMSS, right? Like with new technologies, we have a very, very big opportunity to provide people with different solutions that are easy to use, non-invasive, and that allow them to have their own privacy if they wish to, and yet get solutions pretty right away to certain things that might not be as serious or that might be very easy to handle and manage, but they didn't know, and it just generates all this anxiety around it, thinking that you're broken or that there's something wrong with you, until you find out that it's something that it's common and that can be fixed, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of like our mission, and my mission is like putting more resources out there, putting more tools that people can utilize from whatever they are, before they have to take the step to maybe make an appointment and go somewhere where they might not be accepted, like you were just saying, like calling Planned Parenthood and having a conversation about something that maybe another provider is not comfortable talking about, right? We need to create spaces.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've been talking with a lot of women over the last 7 years and beyond that, right? So with regards to, anxiety and the anxiety that women tend to suffer when it comes to our bodies and, intimate issues, what are some of the things that you are finding aside from like the physical health concerns? What are some of the other things that kind of kick up that anxiety for women?
There's many things. Definitely one of the aspects that we've gotten a lot of messages and testimonials and feedback from our users about is the sexual pain and sexual dysfunction aspect. It's an aspect that we don't talk about because we have no actual sex education when we grow up. Here we are,
Exactly.
where we have a lot of young women who are in their early 20s, and they've always had discomfort during sex and they don't know what's wrong with them or not know if that it's even normal and what it's just supposed to feel like. And they bounce from one specialist to another specialist, being told that they just need to relax, that at the beginning it's a little bit uncomfortable. And so they internalize this message, this narrative that, well, in this heteronormative sexual standards that we live in, and with everything they say in porn, it's like, well, it's just a little bit uncomfortable. But like it creates a lot of distress for them. It creates a lot of strain in their relationships. There's usually a big gap of, obviously, if they're in a loving partnership, the guy doesn't want to hurt them, so it also creates insecurities in them because they're hurting, but they don't always communicate them because they want to please the man. And so it creates strain, this like crazy dynamic that could have been prevented if we had more open conversations with our young people about what sex is and how it should feel like. And if we had better mechanisms for diagnosis for pelvic floor dysfunctions and related issues, which is what this usually comes from. There's so many myths in that realm that I want to debunk that I think are hurting us as a society, but especially women, like the fact that, oh, women lose interest in sex when they have a child. Well, let's take a step back right here.
Let's unpack that for a second.
Let's unpack that for a second. Her body was just extremely transformed, and she was supposed to adjust to it without any sort of like therapeutic, like therapy or like coaching support. Her entire body is presenting symptoms that have never been present there before, and that probably hurt. And she has absolutely no support or guidance in terms of visiting a physical therapy for restorative pelvic floor massages or exercises, or having maybe like the right guidance as to what products are going to help ease her symptoms or her scars if she has any birth injuries. She has to probably go back to work and within less than 3 months when her hormones are up and down, and there's again no mental health support so that she can adjust to what is happening. There's no nutrition guidance as to how to eat foods that are going to help ease that hormonal imbalance that is happening right now.
Well, and also just I remember the first 24 hours after I had my daughter, and nobody told me to be mindful of the foods I was eating and how that could create gas in the baby because I was breastfeeding her. And oh my gosh, they fed me. I had her in a birthing center in the hospital, and the food that I ate was all like, broccoli, dairy, orange juice, like, acidy, creamy, gas producing food. And my little newborn baby daughter I remember that it was literally 24 hours after she was born, and she screamed bloody murder for an hour. And the nurses kept coming in to check on us because they were like, is everything okay? Like, are you okay? And we were just like, yeah, we're just, and we were just 20, her father and I, and we're trying to like manage this poor pain, this little newborn baby that was in so much pain. And so even like that, like foods that you should eat or not, or stay away from in the, when you're nursing a newborn baby. There's so much that goes on for women when they have children. And I know for me, when I had my daughter, I wondered, okay, I like in my brain, I was so conflicted. It was like, okay, wait, I'm a mom and I'm equating myself to my mom. And who am I now as a sexual being? And is it okay for me to still be sexual, like as a mom? Because I had a very conservative, my parents are much older than my twin sister and I. Were the last of 5. And so they're like a few generations older than us. And it was like, okay, who am I now as a sexual being? And then for me, and it's different for every woman, but for me, having a baby nursing on my breasts every day, all day, day in and day out, I didn't want her father to touch my breasts, like
it hurts,
or just like, no, like don't, I have somebody suckling on my tits every day. I don't like, and so I would push him away, and I'm a small breasted woman. And like, when I was pregnant and I had Kaya, I actually had like larger breasts, so it was like
whoa.
So he didn't even get to really enjoy them much because I was like, no, don't touch me, So yeah, and then postpartum depression, there's just so much going on. And I didn't thankfully even have to manage any pelvic floor stuff. Thankfully I didn't, I had her naturally, I didn't tear. And that's a huge blessing because I have friends who have suffered for years after having their babies with scars and, serious pelvic floor issues and not really having much of a sexual life with their partner because it's been too painful.
Yeah. And that's the thing, like it's not talked about and it's not discussed. And women don't get any support to help their bodies heal so that they can ease that process. There's not enough conversations around, hey, like this is how I feel right now, and these areas are still very like sensitive. Let's do other things. Let's just, think outside of the box. And I think that there's just still this predominant vision of, this underlying belief that the woman needs to please the man. And therefore, you should like make sure that he's at least enough sexually pleased that he's not going to leave and things like that. When like you just gave them the biggest miracle they're ever going to receive in their lives. And I don't know, it gets me as a feminist that we sometimes as a society are so, I don't know, just so hard on women and mothers, and expect them to not just now be perfect mothers and recover and look good and be fit and keep the house clean, but also please the man and go to work. And it's like, seriously, like how how much more, can you ask of a person? And I think that we need a lot more conversations around like, sexuality fluctuates. It doesn't have to be A, B, C, D, and this is what it looks like. And otherwise your sexual life is failing. No. There are many ways in which we can express our sexuality that's going to be respectful towards the, whatever symptoms we have at the moment or whatever we're feeling.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, and what I find works really great is conversation, communication, right? So if we're talking about relationship dynamics, for all of us to be more courageous about speaking to the truth of what we're actually experiencing with the people who need to know, and getting that support from, whether you need to see a professional, a therapist, so if you're having physical symptoms that need attention, seeing the right type of practitioner or doctor.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember when I went to see this woman I know who does myofascial massage in Rochester, and a friend of mine was telling me that she does vaginal work as well. And I'm pretty open. Like I'm like liberal. I'm, definitely leaning way to the left. I'm, and even for me, it was like,
yeah,
whoa, okay. How am I going to feel about this? And it was actually, the work was so incredible. And she is helping women heal from the inside, because and then this other midwife that I went to see, I remember her telling me like that I don't have a super strong pelvic floor. I have a tense pelvic floor.
And that's usually the cases in which myofascial release massage is really useful, when there's a hypertonic pelvic floor.
Yeah. So it's like, and before I went to see this one midwife, I had no idea. Like nobody had ever
that concept existed, right?
No, and like nobody had ever, said to me like, "Oh, you actually have a lot of tension in your pelvic floor, which is not strength; it's different." And so she advised me not to do Kegels for a while, and to work on relaxing those muscles so that I could, like work through some of that stress that was there. And then I went to see the myofascial massage therapist. And so I'm not sure where it stands now, but I know that I'm, on a journey to my own sexual health and emotional, mental health. So it's something that I want to understand better, like, because it's almost like not everything is good for everyone, right?
Exactly.
Like different herbs that heal some people are like, could be toxic for other people. Different foods, good for some people, toxic for other people, so we all need to be on our own journey of identifying like, well, is that actually the practice that I need to be doing for my body and my system and my constitution to get me to optimal health?
Absolutely. And I think that that's the direction that healthcare should be moving towards. And parts of it is, but parts of it is very reticent to this change. And that's why for us, for instance, with B-wom as a software tool for health for women, we were very clear that a fundamental value that we wanted to add was the personalization aspect. As you were saying, there's another myth. Here we go again, right? Like, it's like, oh, you have some like intimate health symptom or pelvic floor symptom, do Kegels. No, in the cases of women that have a hypertonic pelvic floor, that's going to maybe hurt them more than do them a favor. And they need to get a personalized evaluation and a routine that addresses their specific symptoms, you know, with different care items. Among them, there might be the myofascial release massage or breathing and lengthening exercises, movement exercises, you know, gaining that proprioception of how your brain identifies what your pelvic floor feels and how it is contracted or not. Because what happens oftentimes is that when we get very contracted, and I know because it, for me, it happens in my right shoulder. So when I get tense, I contract. And it's like the connection between the brain and that contraction movement is broken. So I don't do it consciously. And it takes some time until I realize and then relax. So that mechanism, that's the same mechanism that happens also in other areas of our bodies. And it's just so unconscious that, you know, we need to re-educate our brain and we need to re-educate the muscles in the area to what it feels to not be contracted.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important that we raise awareness. And it's one of my big passions to raise awareness about this specific discipline because it really is unknown. And then another misconception that other women have, it's like when they've been told that they need to go see a physical therapist, they assume that there's going to be this myofascial release work being performed. And then they don't like it, they react to it negatively, and they don't go. And it's like, no, it doesn't have to be like that. Like, you can have a conversation with your provider and say where your level of comfort is. In fact, there's many that do not perform the massage at all.
Well,
so
it's like and it's like being in the bedroom with someone and they're going too fast or they're going too slow or they're not, you know, doing this or they're not doing that. And you're just like, discover this way of sharing your needs with someone and saying, like, just like with a massage therapist, actually, could you apply more pressure there? Or that's too much pressure. Could you lighten up, you know, in that area? Being more comfortable. And I'm saying this for myself because I noticed that I can totally clam up. There have been many times where I've been at on a massage table, maybe not many, but a handful of times where, you know, I did not speak up when either like it was like they weren't putting enough pressure or they were putting too much pressure. And for me, that's an edge that I'm leaning more into is like, speak. Like, you know, if someone is pleasuring me in the bedroom and I'm like, and if they do this other thing, it's going to like really heighten the sensation. I am committed to being courageous to speak that and to speak it in a way that's inviting and that, you know, is like, that really brings them into the pleasure sense of it.
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense. That's another big thing for women. We are not taught to speak up. When something is uncomfortable, we're taught to, you know, adjust to it, tolerate it. And it happens with sexual health dysfunctions. It's happened with discomfort during sex. It happens and it's the root cause of the orgasm gap. We're not talking about that's not really feeling that good. Maybe we can do something else. We're just like, we feel bad. We feel bad about everything. We're like constantly apologizing and we're not saying, hey, no, this does not feel good at the moment. What can we do instead? Or how can we do differently so that it feels good to both of us? And it just present in so many aspects of life. From a situation like what you were just describing, where a massage is not feeling good and you're like, oh, maybe it's me, it shouldn't feel good, to the bedroom, to the boardroom, where you're not saying, hey, I'm feeling unheard, you all are speaking on top of me, you know, like you're not listening, and we'd feel bad, right? So
and that's exactly what it is. It's that feeling bad. And like, and I mean, it's like you can see it in your life. Like, wow, that goes all the way back to just feeling bad that I exist.
Right? Like feeling like you're privileged that you're even given a chance.
Yeah. And, you know, and I know that lie, I'm going to call it a lie, that I ever believed that like that I ever had a story, and it's still there. And I am going to just love on myself that there's still this story around, you know, how can I be safe in the world? Because at a very like young age, even maybe before birth, I developed something that it was like, you know, I'm a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't want to get in trouble, but I keep finding myself in trouble. And you know, and now as an adult, I like that I'm a bit of a troublemaker in a sense. You know, I'm not as much of a rebel rouser as I used to be, but you know, I certainly get into good trouble, and you know, sometimes I get into other types of trouble that, you know, because maybe, you know, it's the way I speak, or that I come quick with it, or you know, flames shoot out of my mouth. But whatever it is, you know, just managing that. Like I've been, you know, doing some deeper work around worth. And yes, it is a privilege to be alive, and it's a privilege to be woman here, you know, living the life that I'm living. I'm living my dreams.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm in a really powerful place in my life right now.
I
And
love that.
yeah, I'm deeply privileged and grateful, and also continuing to heal whatever wounding is there about like my worth, and like, am I worthy enough to exist in this world?
Mm-hmm.
And like taking up too much space, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and like dealing with all of that old programming, which has created a lot of anxiety,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And so in terms of, you know, let's talk for a moment here before we wrap up, just about like, how do we deal with the anxiety that we experience as women, like, you know, about our bodies.
Mm-hmm.
I shared recently on a podcast that I've been dealing with a lot of, you know, body stuff around my belly. And
Mm-hmm.
you know, I've always been fit. I've always, you know, I used to have a like six pack and all of that. And like over the last 10 years or so, I have more extra on my belly. And over the last year, I've been obsessing about it almost daily.
Mm-hmm.
So,
But we've been programmed by society to obsess about any little thing that doesn't
mm-hmm.
fit into what we've been told is the way you should look like. You know, society kind of like defines what constitutes beautiful at every phase of time, kind of, so to speak. I always use this example.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, my mom was very, very skinny growing up. She didn't have a great appetite, and during her time, being skinny was a bad sign because it meant it was post-war moment in Spain, and it meant that your family did not have enough food to feed
Mm-hmm.
you. So
Yeah.
it was a very bad sign. People wanted to look chubby. And then when I was growing up, I was chubby. And so these people that were my mom's generation were trying to compliment me on being chubby. And I was pissed. I would get pissed because my generation was told that the only way to be beautiful was to be skinny. And now it's like you need to be fit. And I'm not saying that it's bad to be fit. I think that we need to learn to unpack that codification that our brain has suffered, where we punish ourselves so much for the slightest thing that doesn't fit into what we've been told is beautiful.
Yeah.
It's just, I know what you feel, because I also told myself like, oh, my belly, like I've been like the last couple of weeks, I'm like, oh, my belly is like getting bigger. Maybe I've been eating like something weird, but it's like, I feel good. Like, why is it such a big deal for me? And then I realized that, that I've been taught to not love my body. I've been taught, not by my family, by the way, like they were always very supportive, but the rest of society is like, I've been told that I'm not going to be worthy of love and respect and support unless I look a certain way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, you know, back to your question, the anxiety, I think that first of all, you need to be kind to yourself and realize that your anxiety is probably not your fault. We all go through it. We're all in this together. We've all been receiving some very toxic messaging growing up. And secondly, I would want women to, you know, take ownership and charge and take up space and be like, I have A, B, and C symptoms or discomforts or things, areas I want to improve, and I am going to do it for myself, and I'm going to, you know, get the resources and the tools and the support that I need because my well-being is worth it.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not just going to like pretend like nothing's happening and bend over backwards to just like not like not prioritize myself and prioritize everything else first.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm also happy to send you some resources and some sites that I know are very helpful for people that are maybe, suffering in silence, some like pelvic floor issues or some sexual health issues or
That would
sexuality.
be great. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's include some resources in the show notes. And are there any sites that come to you just right away?
Yeah, for sure. So for pelvic floor dysfunctions and women's health issues, definitely check www.b-wom.com, which is our site, and you can download our app and get personalized exercises and habits. For sexual health concerns, reproductive health concerns, I'd say cyclesandsex.com.
Oh, yeah.
Really great resource.
Yeah. I ran into Laura and Billy at South by. Yeah.
Yeah. I saw them the other day too, and they're doing great work. Talk Taboo is another site that I really like, particularly focusing on sexual education, sex ed, and intimate health and sexuality. So definitely check that out. And then I'm trying to come out now with one that they also have a business that focuses on the mental health aspect, because I think that that's really, really important, and we don't have enough. I can throw in some names like Shula Melamed, Dr. Holly Richmond, sex therapists that help a lot of people, work through their relationship and sexual health related concerns. I'm happy to send you more after.
Great. So we'll get some good resources in the show notes. And, this is a good conversation for everyone to listen to, because we're all, if you're a man and you're not aware of the issues that women stress about and have anxiety about, and that can really take up space for women on the day-to-day, this is a great conversation, right? Because you get to learn more about, what the women in your lives may be dealing with, and for the women out there, it's like self-love, like being aware, oh, there's the anxiety, calling it out, like, oh, there's the anxiety. Okay, I'm feeling anxious. Okay, I'm going to take a moment. I'm just going to like breathe and connect with my breath and feel my feet on the ground. And then like maybe it's, last night I noticed that, oh, my little girl is being triggered. Okay, so I did a lot of just self-hugging and reminding myself, like, I belong, I am loved, I'm here. And I find that goes a long way to settling that anxious energy. And
self-soothing. So it's a mechanism that babies have when they like either suck on their finger or something, and we like stop them, and like the finger sucking, if you're like 30 years old, doesn't look really good to society, but we definitely need to find other ways of self-soothing. It's so good.
I actually sucked my thumb. I think I sucked my thumb till I was like almost 10. But I wasn't like out in public sucking my thumb. Not that that's good or bad or whatever, but I would like, definitely, like, it took me a decade, maybe it was because I wasn't breastfed and I was like, I just need something real to suck on. But well, Estrella, what a great pleasure to have you on the line. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, so my personal website is estrellajaramillo.com. So basically my name and last name. And then I am always to be found on Twitter and Instagram at Estrella J Rios. I can send you the information after so we can link it. I know my names are very hard to spell. It's
well, you have that gorgeous Spanish accent. So we'll have all of that in the show notes. But Estrella Jaramillo.
Jaramillo. J-A-R-A.
So it's ESTRELLAJARAMILLO.com. And we'll have all the links in the show notes, including the resources that Estrella mentioned. And it's just been such a great pleasure to be with you.
Thank you so much. It was a great conversation. I'm so happy that we connected at HIMSS, and that, that led us to being here today, and that you gave me a space in your amazing podcast.
Absolutely. Well, my pleasure. And it's also good to know that we have all these intersecting lines of people that we're connected to. So I look forward to discovering what we can create as a community moving forward. So enough love and respect, Mama. Keep going. I'm excited to see what's next on your journey. And Ignite Intimacy community, thank you for joining us for another powerful conversation. This is March. We're talking about sexual health. And I actually think, I'm going to just look at my calendar here while we're on the line, because this is the final conversation for March. So thank you for joining us for this incredibly powerful month. We were at South by. That was a dream come true and totally amazing. I hope if you haven't heard that conversation, definitely check it. It's number 108, and it's all about making disclosure sexy. So Estrella, have a beautiful, beautiful Sunday. And to our community, we love you so much, and we will see you on the next one. And that's how we do it here. Ignite Intimacy, bringing it to you live and direct. What a beautiful and powerful conversation. This is a conversation for anyone to listen to, connect in. Let's keep deepening into our self-love so that we can, self-soothe, and then also connect with our loved ones in our communities to receive that love and support that I believe we all need. And it's just really, again, an honor and a pleasure to be on this journey with all of you. Thank you so much for tuning in week after week and sharing the podcast. It's so helpful if you hop over to iTunes and leave us a rating and a review. It gets us up there, out into the interwebs in a bigger way so that more people can have access to this conversation. And we've got some great resources for you in the show notes. So please make sure to tune in. Check the show notes, go check out some of the websites that we shared. And again, we're just so loving you, so grateful for you. So love in your hearts, love in your minds, love all around each and every one of us. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we will see you on the next one. We've got an erotic poem coming up from Miss Noelle. So stick around. That's next. Love, love, love. And we'll see you on the next one. Mwah.
Storm. The phone alert said, storm, flood, warning. In other words, stay in. And so I went out. And amidst everything getting all stirred up, you came to my call. And though still miles away, you zipped up my jacket, took off my hood, and undid my hair to let it whip free. Get it wet, he said. Be the fronds of the air, you said. And it dreamed itself awake somehow with your care, keeping warm but still wild, keeping dry except where it counts.
Thanks for tuning in to another conversation on the Ignite Intimacy podcast hotline. We love that you choose to spend your time with us. Check us out at igniteintimacy.com. Subscribe to us on iTunes and leave us a review and a rating. It helps more people know about us. We love to hear from you. You can email us with questions, comments, or suggestions to hello@igniteintimacy.com. And tell your friends. Music was arranged by Jason Pfaff and Mike Corey, and this podcast is produced by yours truly, Laura Aisha. Thanks again, and we'll see you on the next one. In the meantime, let your light shine bright and ignite your intimacy.